this woman, Muffet McGraw. She's a basketball coach of Notre Dame, and I watched this interview, and I thought, she's absolutely right. It's about time we start pushing it. So I'm just going to let you watch that real quick.
Muffet, I know you made some comments about hiring practices and what you do in the future. How important, as your career has gone on and we lost past Summit, how seriously do you take being that voice?
Did you know that the Equal Rights Amendment was introduced in 1967 and it still hasn't passed? We need 38 states to agree that discrimination on the basis of sex is unconstitutional. We've had a record number of women running for office and winning, and still we have 23% of the House and 25% of the Senate. I'm getting tired of the novelty of the first female governor of this state, the first female African-American mayor of this city. When is it going to become the norm instead of the exception? How are these young women looking up and seeing someone that looks like them, preparing them for the future? We don't have enough female role models. We don't have enough visible women leaders. We don't have enough women in power. Girls are socialized to know when they come out, gender roles are already set. Men run the world. Men have the power. Men make the decisions. It's always the men that is the stronger one. And when these girls are coming out, who are they looking up to tell them that that's not the way it has to be? And where better to do that than in sports? All these millions of girls that play sports across the country, they could come out every day, and we're teaching them great things about life skills, but wouldn't it be great if we could teach them to watch how women lead? This is a path for you to take to get to the point where in this country, we have 50% of women in power. We have right now, less than 5% of women are CEOs of Fortune 500 companies. So yes, when you look at men's basketball and 99% of the jobs go to men, why shouldn't 100 or 99% of the jobs in women's basketball go to women? Maybe it's because we only have 10% women athletic directors in Division I. People hire people who look like them, and that's the problem.
So did that hit you just a little bit, I hope? And it hit me hard when I saw it. So I started thinking of the women in our community who played sports, and part of that sports experience put them in a leadership position or gave them the qualities necessary to be in a leadership position. Of course, I thought of your coaches first. So they're all here to show their support for this and to share with you. We had some past community members who I'll introduce later, but they're willing to be here. And some very high up people in the district who they're very, very busy people who took time out of their day to be here to share with you. So I want to thank them, and I want to give a huge thank you to Chief Donis. Chief Donis played softball at Fresno State under Margie Wright. She used those softball skills that she learned while working in the fire department and then kept elevating. She wasn't searching to be a leader, but all the qualities she displayed made her a leader. And now, I have to say it, Muffet McGraw said, when are we going to not have to say this? But she's the first female fire chief in Fresno, and she won't be the last. She paved the way. So please welcome Chief Donis. Right before she talks, I just want to share this real quick thing with you.
Firefighting is a very dangerous profession. We have 1 to 2 fires a day, and when you respond together and you put your lives on the line, you do have to surround yourself with experts. And for us, the expert in gas and electric is PG&E. We run about 2,500, 2,800 fire calls a year, and on almost every one of those calls, PG&E is responding to that call as well. And so when we show up to a fire and PG&E shows up with us, it makes a tremendous team during a moment of crisis. I rely on them. The firefighters in this department rely on them, and so we have to practice safety every day. Utilizing PG&E's talent and expertise in that area trains our firefighters on the gas or electric aspect of a fire, and when we have an emergency situation, we are going to be much more skilled and prepared to mitigate that emergency for all concerned. The things we do every single day that puts ourselves in harm's way, and to have a partner that is so skilled at what they do is indispensable, and I couldn't ask for a better partner.
The reason I wanted to show that to you is, number one, gives you a little insight into who Chief Donis is. But did you notice anything in that video? All men except for Chief Donis, who led them the way.
Thank you. Thank you. Well, I'm honored and happy to be with you and share some time and maybe have a little interaction. And later on, we'll visit and have some conversation. But that's true. There are very few women. I'll tell you a little bit of the backstory on how I got here, and it might resonate with you, hopefully. And we'll talk when I'm done a little bit about recruiting you. And we'll show a little recruitment video on what we did just this past month. My intention was not to be a firefighter. I was a student athlete my whole life. I planned on working in the fitness industry with my degree from Fresno State. But I played sports. I played competitive Little League baseball with boys up until a point where I was forced to play softball. And believe me, I use the word forced literally because I wanted to keep playing baseball. But I went into softball, and I love basketball too, and I had to make a decision. Do I want to play basketball or softball in college? And I thought I had a little bit longer longevity in softball. And so I went to Fresno State because Coach Wright recruited me there. Coach Wright was originally from Illinois State. And I signed to play for her at Illinois State. And she came out here that summer, and I went to Illinois State, and we never met to play for each other. So after about a year of playing there, I realized I wasn't going to achieve any personal or team goals. And I knew I needed to get out of there because I was doing nothing really productive and definitely wasn't focused on my academics either. So I left. And fortunately, it was the universe lined up as it should. There was an opening out here when Gina Strang was going to graduate, and I redshirted 1 year here and played 2 more. Well, those 3 years here at Fresno State, I got to compete at the highest level of athletic competition in college. So we competed for the title of softball 3 years in a row. And we took second all 3 years. But I will tell you that the experience I had here and the camaraderie I had with my teammates, I wouldn't trade for anything, not even a title. Because it taught me so many valuable lessons that I can carry with me into my professional life, and I did. So I was working in my profession, and I was a personal trainer at the time, and one of my clients said, you should think about being a firefighter because her husband was a deputy chief. And I said, literally, oh, well, tell me what they do, right? Tell me about it. And she goes, well, you have to be mentally and physically tough, strong. You have to be a team player. You have to be disciplined. You have to have a strong work ethic. And you can promote using your degree, and the light bulb went on because I thought, well, that's what I've been doing my whole life as a student athlete. And it just lined up perfectly for a profession based on everything I'd done as an athlete. And if you are athletes, it's a career you might want to consider. I had the opportunity to promote, and I would challenge you that don't ever let anyone tell you are too young, or you haven't been on long enough, or whatever it may be. Take every promotional opportunity you have an opportunity for, if that's really what you want to do. So I promoted pretty quickly in the organization because I was qualified to take those tests. So I promoted to an engineer, so I got to drive, and that was a blast because you got to drive a 40,000, 80,000 pound piece of equipment, code 3, and the C carts, when you're driving. And then I got to be a captain, where you're in charge of the crew. And then I was asked to come down and work in a 40-hour position to get some administrative experience. And then I became eligible for the deputy chief test at the same time as the battalion chief test. Now I will tell you that the firefighting profession is a male-dominated profession, right? Over 200 years. Male-dominated, 96% of the firefighting force are men. So if you're a woman, you're already kind of at a disadvantage. If you're educated, you're a little bit more, it's a little disadvantage as well because that's not how the tradition usually works. It's mostly how long you've been there before you're worthy of promoting. And then you're ambitious. Well, I was ambitious. in that I was not okay with just good enough. I wanted to challenge myself to the next opportunity or challenge, because I thought I could do something more than just what I was doing at that time. I had something more to give to the department to make a difference. So you have a lot of resistance, but I would encourage you to persevere, stay focused on the goal and what your purpose and intent is. And I promoted within 8 years to be the number 2 in the department. I don't say that in a bragging way. I say that very humbly, but in a very intentional, measured way. I went after what I thought was what was best for the department and where I thought I was going to do the greatest good. And I spent 10 years, just about 10 years, as a number 2, working in different divisions of that department, until a time where I was eligible to go after the fire chief's position, in charge of the whole department. This is a 42-year-old department, one of the oldest in the country. So I competed. And I thought, well, no one better than myself that knows this department. The other candidates were from the outside. At the end of the day, I didn't get the job. And I had a choice. Just like you do on the court, or in the field, or in class, you have a choice. If you don't get the hit, you don't make the play, you don't get the ball, you have a choice. You can be down about it, go have an attitude in the corner, and set that example for the people around you. Or you can work through it, step up, continue to persevere and press on, and do the best job you can to get better and to be even more talented down the road, and position yourself in preparation. Well, unfortunately, 9 months later, for that past chief, I was called in the middle of the night and said, I need you to step in as interim chief. And I had to retest again. I had a choice. You go through this exercise again, and I did. And I was appointed the chief, and it's been 5.5 years since that time. And it has been a challenge. But everything I had done preparing as a student athlete really helped prepare me for the future that lie ahead. And so I encourage you all to stay the course and persevere, be tenacious in whatever it is you're pursuing to do, whether it be academics or athletics. Don't let anybody tell you you can't. Don't let anybody. And I'm sure, is someone covering Wolfpack, the book? Anybody?
That's the video I'm going to show.
Very good. I won't even touch it then. But this is a great career, and part of my challenge is to encourage other women to not wait until they're 28 like I was. I wish someone would have told me sooner. Consider this profession right now. So I'm recruiting you, okay? I'm recruiting you to think about being a firefighter. In 30 seconds or less, this is just some of the highlights. You can retire at 50 in 20 years. You have a pension, look up pension. You have insurance for you and your family, look that up too, what that means. You work 2 days, 24 hours, and you have 4 days off. Do I need to repeat that? When you work really, really hard, and it's intense, but you do get a break. We let you rehab. Okay? It's a family. You live a third of your life at this fire station. It's a family we call the FFD, Fresno Fire Department family. We did a girls empowerment camp. So this is something new to Fresno, where we held 50 slots for women 14 to 18 to come and try out what it would be like to be a firefighter for a day. And we put you through several stations and let you feel what that gear feels like. Pull hose, spray water, use a chainsaw, open up a car door. It was an exciting day. I think we have a short video on that.
This is the Girls Empowerment Camp. It's a camp put on to provide youth the opportunity to experience hands-on techniques and training on what we do here in the fire service.
What I want the people that have been through this camp today to walk away from is, one, confidence. We sent some girls up the aerial ladders today that did not think they would be able to do that, and the look on their faces when they got up top was amazing. They were so proud of themselves. So if anything, I want them to walk away with confidence that they could do something out of the norm.
Have to do some work up front early to educate young women about the possibility of becoming a firefighter. I mean, I wish I would have known early on, 18, 20, that this was an option. And so just making those deposits early on will plant those seeds, and if some of the young women out of here, 5, 10, become firefighters, then that investment's going to pay off.
So again, just real quick, and I'll wrap it up. This is an outstanding profession. We need more women in the firefighting profession. Women think differently than men, and there's great value in having your fire department, your business, mirror what your community looks like. It's very important, and so we had work to do, and this is just the first start. And even if you come to the camp and you don't become a firefighter, I know that you will get a great deal of empowerment out of the activities that you do that day. So with that, I'm going to say thank you.
Thank you, Coach Chief Donis. She's actually a coach too. Whenever you're a coach, you're coaching in leadership too. So, with the community members, please come up. Again, like Coach or Chief Donis just said, leaders come in all different diversities, right? So I tried to get a diverse group here for you as well, so you can see your own reflection. Coming up first, it should be just the community members first, so coaches, get out of the way. Just kidding. Okay, Ms. Weaver, former principal, Educator of the Year magazine. She retired and left us, but what an amazing principal she was while she was here at Sunnyside High School. Now this is a combo job right here. Lisa Houck is also a softball coach, but she's a former journalist for the Fresno Bee. So that is what she's here for. Very proud of this young lady right here. Not so young anymore, we're getting older, right? I coached Wendy at San Joaquin Memorial. She was on my volleyball team, and now she's an author of the Optimist Journal, a mother of 4, and came all the way up from Huntington Beach to share with you. So welcome, Wendy Jones. By the way, her father is a former congressman as well. Then from our own district, Ruthie Quinto, who's in charge of all the finances of Fresno Unified, years ago took Fresno Unified that was in the red, which means in debt, and brought us into the black. We owe a huge debt of gratitude to Ruthie Quinto. Good to yellow. All right, in charge of facilities, boy, talk about a bear of a job. She oversees all the facilities, K through 12, and all of Fresno Unified. That's a crazy job, and she does a great job of it. Karen Temple. And you all recognize our board trustee, Valerie Davis. We're very blessed to have her. She comes to all football games and flips the coin. That's what you see publicly, but behind the scenes, she makes sure Sunnyside's taken care of in the district. So thank you, board trustee Valerie Davis. Another player I'm very proud of. This is another former San Joaquin Memorial. She played basketball and softball at San Joaquin Memorial, and went into nursing, and now she's a level 3 nurse at St. Agnes and schedules all the nursing schedules. So awesome woman, and boy, you just get to know her. She's incredible. And then our own staff members, Michelle Anderson is a VP. Some of you may not know she was also our former girls basketball coach, played at Fresno State as well. So glad she's here to share some of her leadership. She's the reason I'm here at Sunnyside, so I thank her for that. You all know Miss Tasha Hicks. She used to be the activities director. Now she's in charge of the after-school program. And then our coaches, come on up. We got Ms. Ariola in charge of golf, Ms. Chris Clay in charge of swimming, Coach Jacobson, golf, Tony Gooch, track and field, Ms. Chavez, water polo, and our trainer, Adelina Farmer. Now, as they talk to you, I've asked them to share 2 things with you. One is what they think the most important quality in a leader is. Number 2, what their biggest challenge as a female leader in this society is. So after they do that, you're going to have the opportunity to ask them some questions. So start processing some of those. Ask them some questions. You never get this kind of wealth sitting at a table. I'm telling you, this is super unusual. And I'm very grateful to all of you for showing up and coming here. So we're going to start at the end. Since she's got to go, speaking of coaches doing extra, she's got to go get life certified so she can take care of you in the pool.
So his name? For those of you who don't know me, I am Coach Chavez. I coach water polo and I help out with swim. I think the biggest part of being a leader is being able to model what a leader is. So that's doing what you're supposed to be doing, first in, last out, modeling just what it means to you to be a leader. As for what I think is the hardest thing about being a female leader is I actually went to a female leaders conference a couple weeks back, and we talked a lot about this. And I think it's actually fairly true. What we were talking about is that there aren't a lot of resources. So it's just you don't see people that look like you in places of power, which makes it hard for you to reach for that power. But just know that you have it in you. You can do it.
My name is Atslana Carter. I am the athletic trainer here at Sunnyside. I actually agree with Coach Maddie. That's what I was going to say. There's a lot of things that I believe go into being a leader, like all the stuff you learn in sports, like commitment, passion, dedication, honesty, integrity. But for me, I feel like it's really important to be a role model, and that's what I try and do. I don't always succeed at it, but I try to be the best role model I can be, and a role model that I would want my kids to follow, a role model that I would want to follow. The biggest challenge that I think I face as a female leader in society, along with everything we've been talking about, women are not as respected, I feel, as men. So we face the challenge of walking this fine line of being nice and happy and smiling all the time, because if we're not smiling, we're not approachable, blah, blah, blah. But then when we know what we want and we go for it, then it's like, oh no, she's mean, she's this, she's that, type thing. For me personally, I'm Afro-Latina and I'm a woman, so I face the challenge of I'm too young to be where I am in life, and then all the stereotypes that follow race and gender and age. So I have to fight 2 to 3 times harder than like our male counterparts, because just to get the respect that we deserve, So that's what I think the challenge is.
Hi, my name is May Silverio. I was on Coach Farmer's team. I'm not going to say this, but let's just say a long time ago. And she's always Coach Farmer. I can't get past not calling her Coach Farmer. It doesn't matter how long it is. The relationships you establish you know, in high school, they'll stay with you, you know, and Coach Farmer. Anyway, and thank you again for assembling this panel, everybody for attending. You guys are so lucky. Like, I can't even think, like, we never had anything like this when we were in school. So get the word out, like how fabulous this event was and how much you learned, okay, so that, you know, hopefully if this happens again next year, more people will attend and we can all learn and grow from this. All right, so I'm gonna start with the second question first. The one that I think that is the challenge as for a female leader. I'm a nurse at St. Agnes. I've been there for 19 years, and I've recently gone back to school, and I'm even still going for a second bachelor's in nursing, and I'm learning still, so you're always learning. And one of the things in nursing that they talk about is how, unfortunately, like, we're such a female-dominated profession that there's so much competition, you know, amongst ourselves, and we're always fighting for, you know, acknowledgement or maybe higher pay or whatnot. And it's just easy to forget, you know, that we're all women in this profession striving to, you know, take care of our patients. And it's so easy to tear down somebody else, you know, whereas we should be lifting each other up. Okay, so keep that in mind, you know, when you're working and as a team, okay, we need to build each other up. Okay, the second one that I wanted to mention is sometimes the biggest challenge for being a female leader can be yourself, meaning to say, can I do it? You know, am I going to be good in this position? You know, will people think of me as a leader? Just go for it, you know. And you may not even realize it that you are a leader. Like I said, I've been in nursing for 19 years, and one day I looked around and I'm like, oh my gosh, I'm the most experienced nurse here, and some days you're it. So don't be afraid to step in those shoes. Okay. As far as what was the first question? Oh, what do I think is the most important quality in a leader? You're going to hear a lot of qualities up here, but for me, I think as a leader, I think being an active, good listener. Okay, listen to the, you know, the people you're working with. Okay, sometimes you just need to have somebody validate their feelings, or they need encouragement. Okay, and then in being a good listener, you can pick up on, oh, maybe, oh, she may need help in this area, and you already have in mind who you can pair them up with to work on a skill or boost some confidence, okay? So I would say being a good listener just all the way around. Thank you for having me.
I'm Valerie Davis. I'm your school board member. In 2002, I ran for school board, and I lost. So I think the most important quality is don't give up. Don't let it beat you. Find out what you needed to do. I needed 1,200 votes. That's nothing citywide, nothing. That's like one graduating class from Roosevelt back then, 400, and 2 more cousins, okay? So I can do this. I can do this. And who beat me? Well, he's a great guy. He's a millionaire. He has a national truck company from coast to coast. But what did he have? What did he have that I didn't have? I didn't have $1 million bucks, but I had you. I had children. I still have children. I have grandchildren. And what are those children? What are they like? They're like you. So the most important quality in my leadership is not giving up on myself. I pray, and it's not easy to run for office. It's not easy to knock on doors. I'm in some neighborhoods I shouldn't be in, and I'm scared. But I have to remember that possibly you live behind that door, and I need to get there, and I need to get the schools to buy the things, to build the things for you. What's the challenge? It never ends. I've been doing this job for 14 years, and I'm going to do it another 14 years. And the challenge is not easy. I have people who sit up on the board with me that vote against me having a school for you. Vote against me having weight rooms and turf and pencils and crayons and trips and whatever. I have people who do the same thing I do that don't understand or believe or want you to have those things. So thankfully enough, we have people in the organization, like these two ladies that know and have their children in this district, and they grew up in this community. I tell them all the time, I grew up here, I live here, my children live here, my grandchildren live here. My mother-in-law was a teacher, my husband and I are teachers, my daughter is a teacher. Over 100 years of service to this community, which I'm tremendously proud of, and I'm not done. Okay, so you're not done. Thank you. Thank you, Trustee Davis, for all those years, and we really appreciate you. And thank you all for being here today. I play softball and soccer here in Fresno in high school. I have 3 daughters who are athletes and are leaders in various ways. One of them, in fact, is pursuing her dream of becoming a collegiate athletic director. And she just texted me and said she got her first job into college, so she's very, very excited. It's on the East Coast, though, so it's gonna be a long trip. But anyway, so these are things we talk about a lot in my house. And that Muffet McGraw video, one of my daughters showed me that when it first came out, and we both kind of cried. That's just, sports is very moving to me because of the power it has for young women's lives. So I'm just really honored to be here today. So the quality that I look for when I'm hiring someone, and the quality I look for in myself, and the quality that I hope people see in me is integrity. And that's having strong moral character, being trustworthy and honest, having high ethical standards and sticking to your principles. And that's something just if you know what you believe in and you live that, and that's what guides you on your path, you won't go wrong. And that's just the number one thing. If someone were to ask me, what do you want in someone I'm going to hire to lead one of my departments, I always say integrity, because skills, we can teach skills, but we can't teach integrity. So just think about that. In terms of a challenge for me, in the particular environment I'm in, because I do oversee operations, which includes construction and maintenance and purchasing and food services and transportation. My maintenance department is predominantly men. We do have some women in the trades, which I love, and I'm always encouraging more female electricians and plumbers, and those are great jobs, by the way. And the 5 department heads I lead are men, so I often find myself in a room where I'm the only woman. And so for me, it's a matter of, my challenge is to create a climate and a culture in those situations, create an environment where everyone feels free to share openly and candidly and honestly, regardless of gender. Like I don't want them to hold back because I'm sitting there and I'm female. I just want them to be themselves and to share their perspective and to be as honest with me as they would with anyone else. So it's my job and challenge to create that environment for that. So that's something that you may encounter in your life, so just think about that. Thank you.
I'm Ruthie Quinto, and I'm the district's Deputy Superintendent and Chief Financial Officer, and I just love how much you are loved and how much love you show your leaders here at Sunnyside High School. So thank you all for being here, and thank you for exchanging those feelings of appreciation for each other. That's very inspiring to all of us who are visiting you today. First of all, I'd like to say thank you, Karen, for your sharing your stories. Karen's the best thing I ever did in hiring her to the district 13 years ago. So I'm proud of you. Thank you. And one thing that I would like to share in being one of my deliberate leadership principles is being influenced by those who work for and with me, and letting those influence actually overtake what might otherwise be my instinct to make a decision. And although I truly might just express that by saying, oh, listen, be an active listener, or bring folks in and, and how decisions are made. But actually, when I say be influenced and allow those influences to take over, it's a very difficult thing when you're responsible for the decision. It's difficult to let go when you might otherwise be a control freak who's an accountant and puts numbers in boxes and makes sure they add up. So that's a very deliberate leadership principle, and I thought I would share that with you. From the female perspective, it is true it is absolutely, and Chief Donis, thank you so much for sharing your story. And I you know how much I respect you. And we had an opportunity to work together at City Hall for some time before I came over to the district. The stereotypes that are unfortunately pinned upon female leaders are, they are tried and true. And so it is incumbent upon us, and we are responsible to persevere through them and to hold our heads up and to be proud female leaders. And the virtues and the characteristics that you are learning on the field and on the court, those are exactly what you need and you'll rely upon as you move into college, career, and the workplace. And you'll draw upon those as touchstones, I promise you. So thank you for having me here.
Hi guys, thank you so much for coming. I'm so happy to come back to Fresno today. I grew up here and I love the Valley. So when I saw these questions, I started thinking, and there have already been so many good answers, but as far as what I think is probably the most important quality for a leader, I believe it's self-awareness. And I think that's kind of a hard concept to grasp when you're younger because you think you know yourself. But when you really take a good hard look at who you are, you need to know who you are to know that you are a leader. And the better you know yourself, the more you'll be able to incorporate all of these things. And like what Ruthie was just saying, you know, knowing when to listen, knowing when to stand your ground. Not being so hard-headed to say, I'm a leader. And leadership's not a forceful thing. It's an inclusive thing. So when you know yourself, you know your mission, and then you're confident enough to go out into the world and share that. That's what I did. I didn't say I was a volleyball player and a swimmer at San Joaquin Memorial when Coach Farmer was there. And I started the Optimist Journal because I see the world through kind of a game of life perspective, and everything I learned in sports I carry into every day. I use it in parenting. I have 4 kids. And that kind of leads me to the next question of what the biggest challenge as a female. I think we are expected to carry the load. You know, when you're a mom and females are nurturing. So even moms or just leaders in the community, there's something else that we're being asked to give that males don't have to give. So I think it's really important to surround yourself with, I like to call them like my people. You have to know you have people around you that will help shoulder that load when it gets heavy. So that's, I think, is probably the biggest challenge, is that balancing act. And then the other thing I would say to young females, and it's still a challenge for me today, is just that voice in your head and the way that you talk to yourself. It's more important than the way anybody else talks to you. So make sure that voice in your head is positive and telling you can do it, and not telling you that there's something that's reserved for someone else that you're not allowed to get to, because it's all there for the taking. You just have to work, and all the things you learn in sports, that's what you take out there and you'll make it. So thanks for coming today. I'm so happy to be here. Good luck.
If you get a chance to buy her book, go online. It's really inspiring because it's all about optimism. And I just look at these faces and those faces out there, and the word inspiring comes to mind. And when I think of coaching and even teaching, that inspiration that you can give a person or lift them up or be positive. And it's hard because I know I see all my softball players, and I know they come to the field and you're having a bad day. You're having a really bad day. And now we got to practice for 2.5 hours. Well, you know what? That's what we try to teach them, is it's 2.5 hours of doing something you totally love and that you're passionate about. And you try to forget the world for 2.5 hours. And I think part of leadership is I just try to stay positive and lift them up, you know, for their day and their season, because one of the most important things is to see you guys succeed beyond the field. beyond the court. And even like Chief Donna said, you know, now you have an opening. We didn't know we could become firefighters. And one thing I didn't know, I wanted to be a sports writer, a sports journalist. And it still is a male-dominated field. And I got my first job, and there's 10 guys and me. And that's our whole department. And they would all say, oh, she doesn't know football, she doesn't know baseball, but I did. And I had to prove myself 3 times more than them, but you take on that challenge and you just dig in and go for it. And that's what I want you as young student athletes to do, is dig in, go for it. And that's one of the biggest challenges out there if you are in a male-dominated profession, is you have to go 300, 500% more and stronger to prove yourself. But you become a much better person, and you become way higher than you ever expected. So one other thing is I took a challenge and a chance. I loved softball, and I answered this little bitty ad in a Fast Pitch magazine that said, come try out for the Women's Pro Fast Pitch League. And I said, what the heck, if I don't make it, I'll go to the Mall of America in Minnesota and make a trip of it. But me and my college teammate packed everything, and we tried out, we made it, and we went on tour, and we went 6,800 miles by bus and stopped in 16 cities, played every night. And I don't know if you've seen that movie, League of Their Own. How many of you seen that movie? We were like that on the bus, okay? And it was so great to play, but also we actually got paid to play something we love. And that's a rarity, that was a rarity for women in the 90s. And I remember one man yelled at me in the outfield, and I'll never forget it. He goes, hey Lisa, do you know Barry Bonds gets paid $55,000 a game to play on the San Francisco Giants? And I just looked at him, and we were getting like $1,500 a month to play. So you're always going to face those challenges, but now women athletes are getting more, and male athletes are getting $330 million to play, but it just inspires you to go for it, you know, and I would have played for zero, because that's what you love to do. So I just want you guys to dream big, and that's one thing. Just push yourselves and dream big, because you never know what you're capable of. Thank you. Thank you for.
Hi, my name is Cheryl Weaver, and I'm retired. My former job was the principal here at Sunnyside, which was probably the greatest joy of my life. And I worked for Fresno Unified for 35 years, and so it was important for Coach Farmer to make sure she had something really, really old on this panel. And when I tell you this, you're gonna really see how old I am. But I tell you this because I want you to know just how fortunate and how many people fought to get to the point where you are now, where you have choices in sports that you play and a lot of the other opportunities that you do. And I think and still we're fighting for more and more. But I went to Roosevelt High School. I graduated in 1972. When I graduated, there were 9 sports for guys, 2 for girls. If you weren't a swimmer or a tennis player, you didn't get to do anything, except you could go to the city of Fresno, the rec department, and there we could play soccer, basketball, softball, and softball was always my greatest joy. It's the only thing I really ever wanted to play. So we played on travel leagues, and that's what we did, but we never had the chance in high school to do that. And so you can imagine 9 sports versus 2. Title IX came in 1972 when I graduated, and again, the only thing I ever really wanted to do was play softball. And I'm not saying I would have ever been good enough to play at Fresno State. I would have loved the chance, but it didn't start till 1977, and I graduated in 1976. So I ended up teaching and coaching, and that's what I really loved, but those were big challenges for all of us back then, and it's so wonderful to see where we are now. But other challenges that, in particularly, a lot of us faced, and I think probably in some businesses they still do, and again, I'm only talking about education. But when I was loving my teaching and coaching, and somebody came in, and at that time in our district, it was very, very male dominated, And it was pretty much the good old boy system. And so if they came to you and said, we want you to do this job, it wasn't like, hey, do you think this is something that would interest you? Would you like to do this? That's not how it was. You either take this job or you're not going to get asked again. And it was like, okay, and you left what you kind of loved doing. Would I have liked to have stayed teaching and coaching longer? Yeah, I probably would have, but I already knew that game, and you just had to play it. And there was no kind of striking out on your own. Otherwise, they would have just, you wouldn't have gone anywhere. You would have just stayed right where you were. So a lot of good things have happened since then. The one thing that I do see even now currently is sometimes we're not always very supportive of each other, and I always wondered in education, how is that possible? We're here for one thing, and that's you, the kid. That's all we care about. That's what we do. And for everybody not to be on the same team and to be jealous of one another in different positions or, that type of thing, I'm going to go to my grave never understanding that, because again, we're here for kids. So wouldn't we all want to hop on board and do the best for that? So I don't know, there's not a lot of room for jealousy there. But as far as what I look for, as far as leadership qualities, for me in education, it was about servant leadership. I felt like I will put all of my needs back on the back burner for what was best for kids and for the faculty. Because let me tell you, in education, if your staff isn't functioning at 100%, which means you better make sure they're being listened to and genuinely cared for and know that they're valued, it's not going to happen in the classroom. They have to be, and they have to know that what they do matters and that everybody truly cares about what they're doing. So, when something goes wrong, you're there to pick them up and go, hey, what is it going to take? Let's get it done. And, I know in different organizations a little bit different, but for me, in education, that passion, integrity, being truly genuine, being a good listener, those were things that mattered, because that is, to me, the only way we were ever going to move forward and get it done. So it's just a little bit about, where I felt, and I'm so proud of Sunnyside every single day, and, once a Wildcat, always a Wildcat. Thank you.
I'll be really succinct because I already talked quite a bit. So a lot of good comments already here about leadership. I really don't believe there's one single quality that makes a great leader. But I will say the one quality is my truest, highest value, which has already been mentioned, is integrity. So do the right thing, even when nobody's looking, is very critical, being a leader. There's a lot of things that are issues for females right now, but I will say kind of one that points out already is the be confident and comfortable and standing in your success. Women often are so humble and we shy away from taking credit at the appropriate time. It's a team effort usually to succeed at anything in life, but there's appropriate times when leaders need to stand in their success and be comfortable with that, and that's just something that we have to work on as women.
I just want to take a minute to thank all of you sitting at this table. My route to where I've become, whether it was my college scholarship or even my current position, wouldn't have been possible without some of the trailblazers before me. I know that I'm very fortunate that I came in at a time where things were starting to shift. So I'm, like I said, very fortunate. I would say the thing that it still is today is we have to figure out how to break the chains of this role that we're supposed to fill. Everything from dress to behavior to, as females, there's this perception that we're supposed to behave in a certain manner all the time. And so that's really a difficult challenge, I think, for all of us. So I think that's something we're continually working towards and getting better at. But that's something that I think we always face, that challenge of, as you start to get into your 20s and you guys graduate from college, the question starts to come up. Everybody knows the question. When are you getting married? And when are you having children? and to get into these leadership roles, it's not that we can't have those things. We should be able to, look forward to those things, but I think we shouldn't be pressured to move in towards those, roles that everybody wants us to play and fit into. In terms of leadership, I was a point guard at Fresno State, and my job was to make everybody around me better, and I continue that today. We had some of the greatest three-point shooters that I got to throw the ball to, and they had the highest percentages in the country. I get to visit with one of them actually both of them on Sunday. I have lunch plans with my teammates on Sunday. Those are the things that I heard that in this panel, and I heard, I think it was Chief Donis spoke about the camaraderie you build with one another, being a part of a team. Being a vice principal here, I can tell you, one of the things that's been most disheartening this year is the fact that as females, we tear each other down more than we build each other up. And we as leaders have got to do a better job. We as women have to do a better job of making, we have a tribe here. We got to work together. We're up against the challenge, right? The male-dominated world. We don't need to tear each other down. We need to help one another. So the leadership quality of making people around you better and being humble, those are huge qualities in leadership. And the one thing that I think gotten better at, even as I've gotten older, the one leadership quality, and I think it was mentioned earlier, is being able to reflect truly on your own, within oneself. It's to really look at the decisions you make and how they've impacted certain people, certain things, and being willing to make adjustment and change based upon that reflection. Those are things that I know that I've grown as I've gotten older. So that's another leadership quality, really reflect upon those decisions that you do make. So thank you again for all being here. I know we're speaking a lot at you, but thank you so much for listening. There's a lot of great advice up here.
All right, y'all. I hope you're buckled in. I got 5 things I need to tell you. I made notes. I promise I wasn't up here texting. All right, here we go. Number 1, know your why and know that you can always figure out how. Lock in on your why. I don't care what job I do. I know my why is y'all. When I was asked to shift from campus culture to doing a brand new thing that I have never done in my life, I have never done counseling and case managing, but I knew for dang sure I could figure out how, because I knew the reason why I was doing it was for y'all. So know your why, know that you can always figure out the how. All right, that's number 1. Number 2, representation matters. We've talked about being the only woman in the room. Most of the time, I'm the only woman in the room that looks like me. Y'all are gonna have that experience too, that part, right? Challenge yourself to be in those spaces, because if you weren't there, they wouldn't see a woman that looked like you. Lean into that, don't shy away from it. And make sure that when they leave that experience with you, they leave that experience with you saying, yeah, but I know this one. Lean into that experience. Don't be afraid of it. It's okay, right? Number 3, let your social media be your broadcast, not your compass. What everybody else is doing on social media, they out here living their best life. Cool. Let that be the TV show they're playing. That doesn't mean you have to tune into it. All right, let it be your broadcast, not your compass. Number 4, you need a tribe of women. I don't want to spoil Endgame for anybody, but let me tell you a couple of things. Number 1, Wonder Woman. I love Wonder Woman. She's an amazing character, but if you really think about it, the coolest thing I ever learned about Wonder Woman is she wasn't a solo. She came from a whole tribe of bad women. You need a tribe. In Endgame, my favorite scene in the whole movie, I won't totally ruin it, but I'm gonna tell you, there's a scene where Captain Marvel, she's going in to save everybody. And right about the time, the boys are like, oh my gosh, is she gonna be okay? The best scene in the world happens. All the women, Marvel, are right there behind her. And right when somebody's saying like, oh my gosh, is she gonna make it? Okoye steps in and was like, we got it. Y'all need to have each other like that. There's nothing in the world that can beat a bad tribe of women. You need one. If you don't have one, get it. And the best thing in the world that I ever heard, my favorite quote that I hang on to, Michelle Obama said this thing, whereas women, we judge ourselves on the basis of this idea that we can be everything to everybody all the time. And that if we're not doing all of it perfectly, we somehow judge ourselves, right? She's like, oh, no, you can't. To hear her, as bad as she is, to say, oh no, honey, you can't do everything for everybody all the time. You can have it all, just not all at once. Giving yourself permission to be okay with that was huge. So, I hope that helps. Love you.
Yeah, I'm gonna keep this short and sweet because I have to follow Ms. Hicks with that. So, Miss Areola, I've coached soccer, softball, and now golf here. Played soccer, softball, and volleyball through high school. Had I'd say like a career-ending injury, blew my entire knee, ACL, PCL, MCL, shredded it. Came back and played even though 3 doctors told me you'd never play again. So perseverance would be my word. Perseverance. You have to, when somebody tells you you'll never do it again, fight through it. No, you can't. Okay? You're gonna have good games, you're gonna have bad games, you're gonna have good days, you're gonna have bad days, but the next day you get to start all over, a fresh new day. So that would be my word, is perseverance. Fight through it when people tell you you can't, when you think you can't, but no, you can. That's my one. I'd say for the biggest challenge, I'm a mom of 2 daughters who are very active. I work full time, I've always worked. I love being a teacher. I'd say balancing my life. There's nothing I love better than being your teacher, being your coach, and being a mom, but it takes a lot, so balance. I cry, sorry.
I'm Miss Clay and Mrs. Clay, and I have coached swimming the last 7 years. The other half of swimming, Miss Class, the main person. And I did coach freshman girls basketball and JV girls volleyball for a few years, my early years here. And I would say, and I have 3 daughters. They all played sports in high school and college. I played basketball and volleyball at a Division III college in Southern California. And so it's been a lot of athleticism, it's been a lot of my life. And I would just say that integrity is my word, and self-reflection, being able to look inward, and I feel like I'm always trying to improve myself as a human being. And when you're dealing with other people, you want to be the best person you can be. So I'm always trying to self-reflect and improve myself in that way. And then the most difficult thing, being a female leader, I would just say, for me personally, fear of just, well, that's all I can say, fear. I just get afraid. And then overcoming old kind of social norms that are set in place, and then trying to, move on beyond those. So, thanks.
Hi, I'm Miss Jacobson. This is really hard for me. In high school, I was very shy. Miss Weaver was my PE teacher down there, way down there, and she's the person that told me that I was good at something, and I can't believe I ever became a teacher because I couldn't talk in front of people, and it's really hard for me to do this. So I am one of the first or only coaches that teaches both boys and girls. So I'm the cross-country coach for both men and women. I've had a pretty good career. I've been doing this for 25 years. I feel like it's a very rewarding profession. I feel shy still in front of men. It's very hard. The girls, we really connect. I feel like I connect with the guys too. I'm shaking. As far as being a leader, I think the leadership role is really important. I look for people that I assign somebody, or a couple people become our leaders on our team, and I assign them like a senior, junior, we give them to the freshmen, and we have them pick them up at the beginning of the season, and those kids teach them how we run the team, and they become like buddies or brothers and sisters, and they help them how we run the program. They teach them what's the norms, I guess you would say, and the way that we run everything, and it's super important that those leaders do not be bossy. You know, if you're a female, sometimes you're told that you're bossy, you're, you know, picking on people, you're not letting them into your little crowd, you're not being friendly, you're not smiling, you know, you're not letting everybody into your little cliques. And that's super important, girls. If you want to let everybody into your little group, it's super important that you let everybody in, let everybody feel welcome. I was kind of an outsider, so I know how that feels, but I still was able to excel, persevere, and become a really, you know, a good athlete. And the profession that I chose was a coach, because I wanted girls to be able to feel that when somebody does care and does take you under your wing, you can do it. And you know, you just have to have somebody there that's gonna be there for you. So that's good.
All right, you guys wake up. I see some people, their eyes closed. Wake up, come on, let's get it. We're almost done. So my name is Courtney Gooch. I am the track and field coach here at Sunnyside. I coach the distance team, so men and women, but also help out here and there with other things. I competed on the Division I level, so I ran track at Alabama State, and I received a track scholarship there. That shaped me and who I am today. So currently, outside of track, I am a pension consultant, and I also sell insurance. So in that profession, a lot of times I'm the only woman, and then I'm young, and then I'm African American. So if you look around this room and you look at your peers, all of you guys are double minorities. I really want you to look right now, because you're a woman and you're a woman of color. So that alone is going to have you have challenges that a lot of people won't face. And for me, that is probably one of my biggest challenges. And walking in that and owning that. You know, owning the skin that I'm in and the woman that I am, and being confident in that. It's easy to forget sometimes that you're capable of doing what your male counterparts can do. And one thing that a male actually told me, he said, Courtney, you're a woman, you're young, you're black. These men may not respect you. So what I need you to do is I need you to study, I need you to research, I need you to work 10 times as hard to know what they know and know more than what they know. And so when I walk into a room, they look at me and they see this young little girl, and that's what they think. And then when I speak and I know, like, oh yeah, you know your money's invested in the wrong stuff. They're like, oh, that man didn't tell you that, didn't tell me that. And then I'm like, yeah, exactly, because I know my stuff. So you go in there and you're confident in what you know and who you are. And what I think an important quality of a leader is having a vision and being able to use that vision to motivate others. Because oftentimes, when you motivate someone else, you may be able to pull out an energy in them that they wouldn't find in themselves. And secondly, being a great leader is not only just being able to tell someone what to do, but serving as well. Serving in that position so that they respect you and they know that you're capable of doing it as well. And lastly, be empathetic. Be empathetic to those around you and be willing to take a risk. And when you take that risk, always seek continuous improvement, because you can always better yourself as a woman. Thank you.
Even if none of you would have come, I would have enjoyed this. That was very inspirational by all of you guys. Amazing. Overcoming fear. Right here, right? Fearful of public speaking and going into the teaching profession, overcoming fear. Finding your tribe. This is what we want you guys to do. Ms. Class is going to show a video. How many of you know who Abby Wambach is? Okay, if you're into soccer, you probably know who she is. She was on the gold medal women's soccer team, and she has since retired, but she wrote a book called Wolfpack. We're going to show you a quick video about it. It's Finding Your Wolfpack.
You know our next guest as a World Cup and Olympic champion, activist, New York Times best-selling author. She has now written a new book. It's called Wolfpack. It was inspired by her commencement speech at Barnard last year, encouraging women to unleash their power. Please welcome Abby Wambach. Ain't no little red. Ain't no little red. That's what her her t-shirt says.
Yes,
Oh, look at those kicks. Henry, did you get her kicks? Come on now, those will hurt you.
I know.
Those were nicely done there.
Thank you.
So good to see you. This all started, it's a brilliant, beautiful, powerful little book. It started with your commencement address last year at Barnard. It went wildly viral. And I want to play a little bit of it. Here it is.
Demand seats for women, people of color, and all marginalized people at every table where decisions are made. Call out each other's wins, and just like we do on the field, claim the success of one woman as a collective success for all women.
Thank you. Thank you for that. Thank you for that. Were you surprised by the reaction?
I mean, look, I feel like, especially last May, we live in a political climate with a lot of issues, a climate with actual issues. You know, we have to start creating solutions to these problems. And this was like my attempt. And the beautiful thing is, like, that speech got turned into this like beautiful book that I'm so proud of. And, you know, my team and my publishers, I'm just so excited the world gets to see it now.
Yes, I am too. And it's 8 basic rules. And the central theme here is for women not to be Little Red Riding Hood, but to be the wolf.
Yes.
Tell people what you mean by that.
Well, I think it's trying to flip the fairy tale on its head. You know, little girls and boys are given messages when we're young and growing up of what it means to be a girl and what it means to be a boy. And Little Red Riding Hood is like one of those very common fairy tales we all hear. And for me, the most success that I've ever gotten is only been when I ventured off the path and took risks. And so for me, if I could go back and tell my younger self anything, it would be, Abby, you were never Little Riding Hood. You're always the wolf.
Yeah, and don't be afraid to venture outside of your comfort zone. You're right for that. So the 8 rules. Now, I have to be honest with you, there was one that I was like, and I want you to explain this. You said gratefulness can hold back women.
Yeah.
What do you mean by that?
Well, I don't know if you remember this, but I found myself on stage with Kobe Bryant and Peyton Manning, and it was this beautiful moment. They were giving all 3 of us this icon award, and I felt like this overwhelming sense of gratitude. And then when we turned to walk off stage, I realized all 3 of us were walking into very different retirements, and anger started to bubble up towards the top, because the only emotion that women oftentimes are allowed to feel is this idea of gratitude. So I try to tell women, you know, you can be grateful. Both things can be true at the same time. You can be grateful and also demand what you want. So for me, that moment kind of led me down the path of figuring out what it was I wanted to do for the rest of my life. And it's fight for equality, and not just in my sport, but for women everywhere in every industry.
And this book is not just... It's not just for women, this book. Men as well.
Yeah, I make a point at the beginning of the book. It's the note to the reader. It's one of the most important parts of this book. And it's an invitation for men to be a part of this process and to be a part of this book. Women for time immemorial, for centuries, have had to find themselves inside the work that's been written by men. And what better way to teach your daughters, to teach your sons about what it means to be a woman than by reading content that's been created for women by women. And also, this is an invitation for men to step into the understanding of what women and what women have been going through for time immemorial.
Yeah, it's very inclusive. Very inclusive.
I got a fan club here.
Do you have a cheering section back there or what?
Yeah, my wife is back there and my team.
They're cheering you on back there. But talk about team. What, you know, for women who say, you know, we were blessed to be a part of a sports team and the wonderful attributes that we learned, but you don't necessarily have to be on a sports team to understand the wolf pack mentality. How do you teach people that?
Well, though I was able to learn so much of my mentality because of the women's national team and because of this beautiful ecosystem, they were still learned skills. They were things that I witnessed and I saw other people do and try to impart that into my life. And creating your own wolf pack, I mean, listen, I have to work out by myself now. And you know, it's harder when you're alone to go out. And also, like, I hate running every single step. I do, but I have to do it. It's part of the process. And for me, like, it made me realize, like, I have to actually create my own wolf pack to make those kind of things that are essential in life, to feel less like suffering, right? And that's why I wrote this book, so that women everywhere have a place to go, have something to look at, a playbook to carry with them throughout their day, and to give them the invitation to create the wolf pack that I know that I needed to be successful.
And you could do it in your church, you could do it in the PTA.
Yes.
There's several ways of doing it besides just...
It's not just the soccer players, it's not just the athletes.
Really quick, soccer players suing for gender equality. Thought they were gender discrimination. What do you say to your national team members?
Here's the deal. The big argument that I hear about the women's national team lawsuit is that the men's team brings in more women, or more money than the women's team. And at the end of the day, that's why the men's team should make more money. Well, the truth is, in 2015, the women's team brought in $6.6 million, and the men's team brought in only $2 million. So enough there. And that's just evidence that it's just a discrimination case. And I want to back my teammates. I want to be able to say the things that I can say for them, because I know it's different when you're inside it and you're a little bit worried about making the team and getting to the World Cup. I'm proud of them, and they're pushing the game forward, and they're pushing women and the experience of women everywhere.
Their victory could be a victory for all of us, as you said. All right, Abby?
Yes.
Down and back. Wolfpack, it is a beautiful, I'm so incredibly proud of you. Wolfpack is out now, and you can read an excerpt on our website.